Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Braden, and welcome to our Meet the Team session. I have a number of friends across our developer platform team here to help you talk about Windows application development on Windows and answer any questions you have. First off, is just a little bit about myself. I'm a program manager, as I mentioned, on the developer platform team. Been doing on the platform team for about 5-6 years now. And really enjoy helping developers get the most out of Windows and their applications as they build. I wanted to introduce Peter Tor. Let me go ahead and introduce him, or let him introduce himself. Peter, say hello.
Hi, my name is Peter Tor. I'm also a program manager. I work with Adam on the developer platform team. I'm primarily looking at app model, app platform type things, particular interest in security, privacy, isolation, that kind of thing, and just general platform goodness.
Great, thank you. Next up, I'll go ahead and bring up Mike Batista. Mike's another program manager on the team.
Hi, thanks for joining us tonight. Yep, I work with Peter and Adam and everybody else on the call. I currently own the Windows SDK, so if you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer them tonight.
Thank you. Next up will be Robert. Robert joins us from a different part of the team.
Yeah, I'm a slightly peer team to the other guys here. I'm PMing for the window management and the windowing APIs over in the composition and graphics team.
All right, and doing support for us, we have Ben and Claire. Ben, do you want to just say a quick hello?
Sure, yeah. Hi, I'm Ben Kuhn. I'm the token dev in your talk today. I'm the dev lead for the Windows Runtime Windows API system, as well as the SDK. And I'll be helping with Q&A in the background, and this might be the last time you see me, but it's great to be here with y'all.
Okay, and lastly, we have Claire. Claire, do you want to say hello? I don't think we have your videos working, so.
Yeah, my video's not working right now. I'm Claire, and I work under Adam and work on some of the modern dev tools, and we'll be helping with the Q&A.
Okay, great. Thought we'd go ahead and we have an opportunity to talk about a broad range of application development topics here. Most of us are on kind of the app platform team, along with some help from windowing and graphics. Hopefully you guys got a chance to see all the, wonderful, I almost hit the wrong button. See all the wonderful announcements we had on Project Reunion and WinUI. There's been a ton of talks earlier over the last 48 hours over those. We can definitely help support those questions, but we're also here to help answer any questions you have about just general application development. First up here, I see a question from, let's see here, Murshad. The question is, don't you have any plans for letting us write a simple app that runs on Windows 7, 8, 8.1, and 10 that can also be published to the Microsoft Store? Something like allowing .NET applications on the Microsoft Store. Peter, do you want to take a stab at that one?
Sure, yeah, I was trying to write a reply, but I may as well speak a reply. So in general, if you need to target Windows 7 and you don't want to take a dependency on the MSIX down level support, the same application can run in all places from 7 through 10. It could be a WPF application, a WinForms application, MFC, etc. But the packaging is a little bit different if you do want the application to be in the Microsoft Store. Typically what you would do is you would build an MSI package for Windows 7, Windows 8, and then you would convert that MSI into an MSIX for the Windows Store. And we have tools that do that. There are third-party tools. Many of the packaging tools that already build MSIs can build an MSIX at the same time. And so it is the same application, just two different distribution packaging formats. There is no single format at this point in time that will be both A, accepted in the Windows Store, and B, run down level on Windows 7, unfortunately. Is that something that you're you still have a lot of customers on Windows 7? You have a lot of requirements for Windows 7, it seems. I see some other people in the chat saying they have to support Windows 7 as well. So actually, I don't know if we can ask for poll questions or anything, but how important is Windows 7 to the folks on the call?
Yeah, I think if they give a thumbs up to the Windows 7 question, we can get a rough idea of based on the number of attendees and how many people have given a thumbs up to that question.
Okay, that's a cool idea.
Yeah. Let's see here. Niels has a similar question in that we still have to support Windows 7 with our WPF app. Are there things like Project Reunion or WinUI 3 we can take advantage of to start modernizing without losing Win 7 support? Similar question here.
Yeah, I don't know what the published minimum bar is for WinUI 3 at this point, but if you go to the WinUI 3 repo on GitHub, I'm sure it's either in their README or you can open an issue on it. I might see if I can do that right now, actually.
Yeah, I believe they're targeting 1809 was the last I heard.
That's Windows 10 1809 from like that'd be the release that came out second half of 2018.
Yeah. And internally we call that RS5.
But there was a related question from Anonymous that Mike Batista has responded to about WPF in particular. The plans for WPF are being worked on right now.
Yeah, Mike, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I was just pulling up some internal email on this. There's very active communication happening internally. There was a bit of a transition of ownership recently for WPF to the same product team that owns WinUI. So that team is putting together the roadmap, and they will publish updates to the WPF repo on GitHub. So if you want to file feedback on particular features you're looking for, you should definitely go to the repo and participate there. And any updates in the future on plans will be published to that repo as well.
All right, thanks, Mike. We also skipped over Adam's question about UWP media composition and media transcoders need some love, especially related to the 4K 60 FPS video. What's the best place to report bugs and make feature requests for those APIs? I don't believe those are XAML APIs, and so we'll have to go ahead. The WinUI repo covers a lot of those XAML controls. And so we can go ahead and, or we could potentially start in the WinUI repo, and then we'll have to collaborate with the correct team that does those media transcoder, media composition APIs. They'd probably be the best place to start, and they can help get it to the correct sub-team that works on that area.
And can I just add something, Adam, to that answer?
Sure.
So yeah, internally we are evaluating how to better engage with the community for people filing feedback just like this on different APIs. Right now, a lot of you are going to the WinUI repo because that's where you're getting the most response. Feedback Hub has some issues that we're aware of. So we are evaluating different ways to better engage, and the Project Reunion repos are a good start. I think a lot of your feedback can be directed there, and in the future you'll probably see some more of us have a presence on GitHub and other places for feedback like that. So stay tuned.
All right, Ben, there was a question about when can we expect a new build for the Windows 10X emulator. Do you want to add some extra commentary on that?
I don't know that I have a whole lot to add. I tried to reply to it in the Q&A, and hopefully that shows. At this time, we don't have another update prepared for the emulator, and I don't have a specific release date for an update. we are still committed to delivering a great Windows 10X experience and 10X product, and we're looking forward to all the applications that show up on it. So we don't have any announcements to make at this time, but stay tuned.
Thank you. I think the next one might be a great one for you as well. There's a question here from Alexander on, can we help please tell the story for Rust for Windows development? Specifically, is it a first-class citizen? Do we or DevDiv have plans for add Rust tooling to Visual Studio?
Oh, that's a great one. We got this question this morning too. So Rust is obviously an up-and-coming language. Its community's been growing very rapidly. It has drawn a lot of attention of people doing system application development in particular for its security characteristics. We're also, our interest is peaked, I think is a good way to put it. We announced WinRT Rust recently, which is still in development, but is very far along, and you can check out the GitHub repo for that. As you might imagine, Windows today, our own operating system team and some other teams within Microsoft are also exploring Rust as a language to implement our own products. The approach we're taking for products on billions of computers is very cautious and thoughtful. So I wouldn't expect that you should expect to see Windows rewritten in Rust tomorrow. We'll obviously approach it very carefully and very thoughtfully, but we're certainly analyzing it and looking at what we can do with it, and we're also excited by what we're seeing the community do, and we want to support them.
Great, thank you, Ben. Next question here is from Hristo about what are the plans for Win2D and Project Reunion. I don't know, Robert or Peter, do one of you want to take that question?
Robert, do you know anything?
I do not. I do not have the details of that just yet, so unfortunately.
Okay, we'll have to go ahead and take that one offline and follow up afterwards offline. We could also put
sorry to interrupt, but if this is the Win2D and Project Reunion, it's probably best to file an issue in the Reunion repo, and then we can triage it later in that context and route it to the right teams. Yeah,
that's a good way to get the correct answer quickest. So.
Yeah.
I think all of our goals for Project Reunion are to undock all the different features of Windows and put them into these Project Reunion Redis packages. It's just a matter of the timing and the roadmap for the different APIs and platform pieces.
Yeah, so Win2D is actually already an open source project on GitHub, built on top of UWP. So I'm assuming the question is more about integration with WinUI instead of integration with Windows UI XAML. So we can take it up with the people that own Win2D here, but that is actually already undocked. It was shipped as an out of band component a long time ago.
That's true. It is its own separate NuGet package. Related to Reunion, there's a question about Project Reunion covering Xbox, getting WinUI 3 to work on Xbox.
Do we have any WinUI? No, I see Andrew joined us. So I don't know specifically about WinUI 3, what the plans are there, but a lot of what we've talked about with with Project Reunion is, blurring the lines between what we would call Win32 apps or desktop apps and what we call UWP apps. Xbox only runs what we would traditionally have called a UWP application. It doesn't have the desktop operating system, for example. It has a very tightly controlled security model. So although Project Reunion, the undocking of Project Reunion might let you get more functionality on Xbox, you will still be running in an app container. You will still be limited to the platform features that are on the Xbox, etc. So you won't be able to suddenly run a WPF application on an Xbox, for example, but you should be able to get new functionality over time that is also available to the desktop. I hope that clarified things. Maybe, and the same would be true for example, HoloLens. So HoloLens also only runs UWPs, does not have the desktop operating system, runs everything in a security context, etc. So Xbox and HoloLens are kind of similar in that way, in that they should get reunion goodness, but only the bits that A, exist at all on the platform, and B, work inside of an isolated app container environment.
Robert, from a windowing perspective, the new APIs that XAML's using for WinUI 3, do you know if that is support for that on Xbox is it planned or on the roadmap?
It is in plan, yes. So we're actively working on it right now.
Okay, so it wouldn't work today with the WinUI 3 preview, but once Xbox has some additional support, it would be able to get WinUI apps running on it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. WinUI is marketed as being able to integrate with Win32 apps. I am wondering what is your opinion on how the modern Win10 controls look and feel and would match WinForms app UI? That question is probably better for the WinUI team directly and the WinUI repo. There's been a lot of talks today on those sessions, so I direct you to engage with them on both the Discord channel that they support as well as their GitHub repository. Let's see here. Next up, we have. We've already answered some questions about WPF. Let me skip down to some of the questions here from Frederick. Frederick asks a good question. Windows 10 is supposed to be the one Windows version for all, but I still find there are a lot of differences between versions. For example, NetCore is not supported on all. Any tips on how to communicate this to customers since most are thinking about Windows 10 as different versions? I guess I'm not entirely sure what you mean by NetCore is not supported on all. .NET Core is a runtime framework, and last I checked, it didn't care which version of Windows 10, Windows 8, or Windows 7 it was running on. So I'm curious if you can add some additional commentary to that question to help differentiate. Unless, Peter, you have some specific ideas?
I'm wondering if the question is actually about .NET standard support in UWP, in which, yes, in order to support .NET Standard 2.0, you need to be running Windows RS3, and I forget what the version number of RS3 is, I'm afraid. But that's specific to .NET Native and UWP. If you're running a desktop application, I'm not aware of any version restrictions. Was the question about UWP and .NET Native?
All right, I'll go ahead and scroll down a little bit more on our questions here. From Sundaram, there's a question about the Windows Media Foundation is going to be supported by Microsoft, and is the recommended technology to use to display H.264 and or H.265 codec-based videos in a Windows C# application, say coming from an IP security camera. I'm not sure if we got any of the right people on the call here that can answer that from the media team. That's something that we can take offline and follow up with you afterwards. And a great way to ensure that you get a response there would be to post a similar question to either the Reunion repo or the WinUI repo. Next up, how much memory will WinUI 3 use? Wouldn't it be an issue with multiple simultaneous running apps? Let's see here. I don't know, Peter, do you want to chime in on that one, or do you want me to try?
Yeah, I do not know. So if you know, then go ahead.
Yeah, the WinUI team, I think it was Project Reunion just finished a Q&A right before us. WinUI had something earlier in the day. But what I know, WinUI's plans are to have some sort of a framework Redis package. And so that should be a single package that could be used by all applications, at least by all packaged applications. Unpackaged apps would have to ship the NuGet package with it currently. I believe they're still looking at additional options to support a similar footprint scenario on disk to minimize that for unpackaged applications. But that's a great question you can follow up with on the WinUI team and their public repository. I do know that from a runtime perspective, I think because the way WinUI was lifted out of the OS, there is a small memory additional footprint as well from some of the runtime optimizations that they were able to do when it was part of the OS. See here from Peter, there's a question. Does Project Reunion mean that we can have a UWP app model store compatibility with as much Win32 access, GDI plus registry as we need? Peter, do you want to expand on your question there or answer there?
Yeah, so the goal, yes, with Project Reunion is to essentially undo the bifurcation that happened when we said there are these set of apps that are Metro, UWP, whatever we call them, and there are this set of apps that are Win32 desktop apps, whatever we call them. And there was this big kind of line down the middle, and you couldn't straddle that line. And when you did file a new project, you basically had to decide which side of that line you were on, and you could never really change your mind after that. Project Reunion is about getting rid of that line altogether and saying you can build an application, you can use the Windows features that you want, and you can decide to pick, do I want to be in an app container or do I want to run unconstrained? Do I want lifecycle management or do I want to run 24/7? Do I want to use the WinUI new UI features with mouse and touch and pen, or do I want to use GDI and MFC and all that kind of stuff? That's the general kind of goal or vision of Project Reunion. But it's not going to happen overnight. And so, as I said in the very brief reply, long term, we want to maximize as much as you can do in quote unquote UWP. And really, when we look forward, all UWP would really mean is running in an app container and potentially running on non-desktop devices if that's what you wanted it to be doing. But in the short term, at least, there are still many APIs that do not run in an app container because they rely on access to resources that are not available for privacy reasons, for security reasons, etc. And part of the long journey of Reunion is to make those things available in a safe, secure, private fashion, and that will take some time. So long term, yes. Short term, unfortunately, no. That dividing line is still there for things like you mentioned GDI. Well, GDI just doesn't really work in an app container right now. Registry access, reading works from certain keys depending on the ACLs. Writing generally doesn't work anywhere, again, because of the ACLs. All stuff we want to make progress on, and it would really help the Reunion team if you could post on issues on the Reunion GitHub to say, this is this particular feature that I would like to have. This is the particular set of APIs or the kind of scenario I'm trying to get to, that kind of thing. Because obviously there's literally hundreds of thousands of APIs in Windows, and knowing which ones we should focus on first will help us get meet your needs faster.
Thank you, Peter. I think you also answered the follow-up question on will the UWP and packaged desktop app distinction go away with Project Reunion?
Yeah, so that's really just kind of more of the same, which is, again, there was this bifurcating line between quote-unquote UWP and quote-unquote desktop. Packaged desktop apps were a way of putting traditional desktop apps inside of a very lightweight container and letting you ship them on the store. But there's still this big divide where you decide at the startup, file a new project. Do I want UWP, which today mandates containment, mandates lifecycle management, mandates a bunch of other things, or do I want Win32, which let you do whatever you want to do? That distinction over time goes away, so you can change your mind after the fact, or you could start off with some code that was, not power managed, not not managed by the security infrastructure, the privacy infrastructure of Windows, etc. And without rewriting your app, over time you could slowly migrate and say, now I want to be power managed so the user gets battery life. Now I want to integrate with the privacy controls so the user feels more comfortable about using my application. Now I want to use fancy new pen and touch and voice input, etc. That was never really possible before because of that upfront choice you had to make. So that's the long-term goal. We're a long way away from that right now, and your feedback on the Reunion Hub will really help us get to the right places first.
Okay, thank you. Speaking of feedback, the next question kind of talks about feedback sessions. Mike, you had a response there. Do you want to expand on that?
Is this the question about it's near impossible to provide feedback unless it's specific? Yeah. So I have a spec internally that I'm reviewing with various stakeholders. We are aware of issues with Feedback Hub and other places. We're aware that there's lots of places to go. Often you'll encounter a support team or a community representative or an MVP, but you really want access to the product team. So we are thinking strongly about how we better engage with you. We want to stand up a central place that has the capabilities for us to respond back to you and vice versa. I did pose the question back, where would you like to provide feedback? We have evaluated a bunch of different, as you said, there are many platforms we can choose from. So if there's a place you prefer, let us know, and then we can account for that in our plans.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I think that is one of the challenging aspects is it would be great to have one place but the Windows platform is a very broad area, and we're starting to see some interest from developers going to at least larger repositories, like for example WinUI, and we want your feedback, but obviously we think Project Reunion is a good place for us to talk about some of these application model questions that everybody has. Jason P has a question about ARM. Can we discuss apps compiled for ARM? Are all ARM apps WinRT, or will there be a possible future native non-runtime compilation?
I was just responding to that one as well, but actually maybe, I don't know, Ben, do you want to chime in on this one, or are you busy in the chat?
Okay, I'll give Ben a shot.
I can try to help out a little bit here. I think there's one or two things to tease apart in this question, but I don't know that I can provide a whole lot more data. For ARM, obviously, so we support ARM as an IoT platform as well as ARM-based Windows devices. And for native apps, I believe we support writing ARM32 native with our tools today, and you can use you can have UWP applications that are native applications with C++ WinRT, C++ CX. You can even write, I don't know if this is true of ARM, but you can write UWP DirectX applications. And you can use Win32 APIs, many Win32 APIs in a UWP application still. So that aspect of the story exists. As far as a roadmap for ARM64, I don't think I have enough information to speak to it tonight.
Thank you, Ben. The next question is about Windows Workflow Foundation and bringing that into .NET Core. As I recall, the .NET Core team has not, they have a compatibility pack, but I don't believe it covers everything. And so we'll have to follow up with the .NET Core team to understand where their roadmap is for additional older .NET framework functionality and bringing that into .NET Core. I think they, in general, want to kind of keep some of those Windows-specific technologies separate from the core runtime. And so we'll have to figure out, what is their plans going forward. Let's see here. There's a question here on the Windows Insider preview for Xbox. Claire, you've already answered that about installing the Xbox Insider Hub. Thank you very much. And we also have a question on developing a video player for streaming. What language and tools are recommended to use on Windows? Does anybody have an idea or some guidance on that? I don't know if we've got the media streaming folks on this call, but we can definitely follow up with them. Okay, from Peter, we have right now we mix old Win32 APIs like Create Thread, COM, DirectX, and WinRT APIs. Will everything be WinRT style at some point? Ben wants to take that one. The sending video is taking a little bit long.
Oh, no problem.
Go ahead and start.
I'll start talking anyway. The short answer is no. We probably will never retrofit everything into WinRT APIs. We recognize that there are some gaps where existing platform APIs that are exposed as only Win32 or COM would be useful to developers using .NET or maybe Rust. And those are problems that we're looking into today, but the solutions may not necessarily be producing those APIs as WinRT APIs per se. There may be other ways to solve that problem. The other thing that we know from experience is that a lot of times developers, for very good reason, prefer the libraries that are available in a given language. And so if you're writing .NET and you want to use the .NET type system and .NET libraries, or you're writing in C++ and you want to use the STL libraries, there's not a whole lot of value in us producing a WinRT wrapper for an existing Win32 API when there's already a tailored native choice or a tailored choice of APIs in that language already. So Win32 and COM are with us for a long time. We know there's some gaps, we're going to fill them in, but that may not exactly look like WinRT today. We will continue to support and expand the WinRT API system, though, absolutely.
Great, thank you, Ben. Hey, Robert, we've got a question that's right up your alley. From Tony, asks, is it possible to have true multiple window apps in UWP, not multi-instance, but a pop-out window that can escape the root frame?
Yes, it's the short answer. The question is, how do you want to do it? We have multiple ways of doing that. You can create a secondary, spin up a new core window and with a new application view and kind of work on multiple processes. But since 19H1, we also have a lightweight windowing construct called app window, which is created on the same thread as your current core window. And these windows that you pop out behave just like any top-level window would. So it's outside of the root frame. You can drag them around, minimize and maximize, go into different states independently of what you do with the main window.
Yeah, I think, Tony, the only thing I'd add to that is if you have additional scenarios that you aren't supported, go ahead and let us know which ones you're really interested in.
Yes, and I would love to get more of that feedback because I'm currently running through the backlog and kind of rejigging that one in order to get more features out sooner. So if you have any kind of critical things that you think would be awesome for the community, let me know and I can kind of see how we can rearrange the stuff in our backlog right now.
Okay, similarly, there's a question here about Direct Draw is deprecated for Windows apps because of Project Reunion. Are there any plans to deprecate any other Windows APIs or Win32? I don't know if that's something you know, Robert, or maybe Peter or Ben could comment on.
Yeah, from my perspective, I don't think so. I don't see any deprecation happening. But a little bit to what Peter commented earlier, right? That some of the APIs available are only available on the desktop OS version of Windows and not on things like HoloLens or Xbox. and as such, they would not work. So if you consider that deprecation or not, I'm not sure. But
yeah, there are other things that, by their very design today, do not fit well into the general privacy model that we aspire to. And so, although we'll continue to let the old APIs work for compatibility reasons for existing apps that can't change, we will be recommending apps that are in active development move to some of these new APIs because they do fit more broadly into our privacy framework. For example, display duplication is something that apps do, like let's say Skype or Teams or TeamViewer, etc. When you share your entire screen with the app that then sends it to someone else, or screen recording software like COM28, etc. The existing APIs that Windows have for basically grabbing the desktop, all the pixels of the desktop, and doing what you want with them, very powerful. A lot of apps use it, very good. But in a world where we want users to be more in control of what applications are doing, and users are more concerned about their privacy, that type of an API is not the best thing that your app could be doing. And so we're building, or have built, replacement APIs for display duplication or bit splitting the desktop window that do come with user consent. There are nice affordances, with yellow borders around the windows, etc. And so we would quote unquote deprecate the older ones in favor of the new ones because we believe they provide more value, they give a better experience to the user, but the old ones will continue to work on the platforms where they used to work, aka desktop. And so there are families of APIs like that where, in order to meet privacy requirements, we did need to build something new, but I don't think there are a huge number of those. Desktop duplication is just one of the ones that I know about because that's been kind of top of mind recently.
Thank you, Peter. Let's see here. There's a question about any weird stories of backward compatibility issues or something similar about our development of WinRT and new technologies that either currently impact our designs and implementations. The only thing I can think of there was maybe fast ABI. Ben, do you want to comment on that one? Okay.
That's actually a good question and a good comment, because I can hit another question that somebody else asked later about C++ WinRT and performance in the same stroke. So so we definitely made a versioning decision in the early days of Windows runtime design that we regret. In that every iteration of a new Windows runtime API is a separate, distinct interface, and this causes a couple of problems. It causes vtable bloat, so every object grows by a pointer every time it adds a new method across releases, and it also causes a runtime overhead in that the methods are implemented on different interfaces, so you pay a QI and you pay interlocked costs to get to these different interfaces. And because of the way the projections and coding patterns work, those QIs can often happen frequently within a series of lines of code, and it's not obvious to the developer that they're doing that. That's a decision that we made that we regret. We'll have to continue to support that style of interface forever, and we've done some creative work with a technology that we call fast ABI. This is where we get into the performance question. I think those interlocks and QI overheads and the memory bloat associated with vtables are a big part of the performance problems we have with the Windows runtime. Fast ABI is a new way for us to lay out the virtual tables on the objects that's backward compatible with the existing WinRT APIs and API system. To roll that out, we've had to add support into each language projection, as well as a lot of tooling, both in our own internal build processes and in some of our open source tooling. and we've come a long way in that journey. We're not quite to the finish line yet, but that'll have a very significant measurable impact on the performance of WinRT APIs. Kenny Carrot does a great. Some of you may have seen the Minesweeper demo that we used to debut Rust. Minesweeper is one of our common kind of first apps for a projection. We have a similar Minesweeper app for C++ WinRT. We saw the QI and the reference counting overhead drop in Minesweeper while rendering from thousands of QIs a second to literally 0 in a steady running state. So we're really looking forward to rolling that out, but it's going to take a while. It's a big, complex project.
Great, thank you, Ben. Let's see, next question, probably related for Robert, around trying to understand competing concepts between multiple window versus dual frame for dual screen devices. Oh,
Yeah, I think I see how this. I'm trying to kind of break apart this one. So it's a slightly different design paradigm for your app, depending on how you envision your users actually working with it. The dual pane, or being able to lay out across both displays within the same window, is intended for applications where you have complementary content on the different screens. So say you have a document and markup tools, or and picture editor with the kind of previews of your edits on the other screen, while the multiple windows is more about kind of multiple instances of different documents. So if you have multiple text documents, they would benefit from being implemented as separate windows, as the user can switch between them, and they can kind of shift the backstacks on the separate displays independently. So it's a little bit about kind of what you want your users, or how you want your users to interact with your app. And I believe we have some pretty good guidance that we put out when we announced the dual screens. Let me see if I can find the link here while we're on the call. Otherwise, we'll post it later. That kind of gives you these starting guidelines for where to begin, at least.
great, thank you, Robert. See here, Frederick had a follow-up question about Windows 10 version, and meaning that .NET Core is not supported on Windows 10 before 1607. 1607, that goes back to RS1 or 2?
Yeah, I just
Peter?
responded.
Okay.
I just checked online, and yeah, this might just be that the Windows OS is out of support. So Windows 10 version 1607 hit end of life on April 9 last year, so it's a year out of support now. So my whoa, I just lost everything. Is everyone there?
You're still there.
Okay, my Teams channel just okay. No, I'm really stuck. Yes.
End of life for OSs.
Sorry.
We'll go ahead. We'll have Mike take that over for you.
You were talking about end of life for the OS.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So it probably doesn't make sense for .NET to support. That's kind of support in quotes, meaning they will support you in an enterprise situation. When if it turns out the bug is in Windows, Windows wouldn't support you because Windows is out of service. So that might be why 1607 is their minimum bar, and they might even move that because now even that's out of support. So if you want to make a query about .NET support, it's best to go to the .NET repo on GitHub and post a question there. But yeah, Windows itself isn't supported at 1607 at this point in time, so that would be my best guess.
Great, thank you. Alexander's got a good question. Oh, I think Ben just answered it. About feature gaps on WinRT to support many languages, multi-dimensional arrays specifically. Ben, do you want to add any more commentary?
Sure. So Windows Runtime Type System had for some time, we call it, we use the term ossified. It's set in stone. With the JavaScript WinRT projection tied to Edge's schedules and the .NET projections tied to Visual Studio schedules and Windows, the C++ projection being in flux from C++ CX to C++ WinRT, it was very hard for us to actually line up support for new types of APIs or new concepts in the type system and get those features out to all the developers that would need to have support for those features to use them. And so we've held off for a little while on actually changing the type system much. In the meantime, we've moved all of this support, or in the process of moving all of this support, into open source projects that are shipping on an independent cadence. They're less tied directly to some of the larger projects and schedules, or products and schedules. And so we're looking forward to, in the near future, being able to be much more agile in advancing the type system and looking at those features. Other features that are along similar lines, people want to be able to have methods associated with structures. We'd like to be able to have support for constants, and there's a few others as well.
Great, thank you. Peter here has a question around with WinRT, can we share data between C++ and C# in an object-oriented way. However, even if we need pod classes, we need to implement them by hand, and setting properties sharing data like this has overhead. Is there a way to make this faster? I don't know. Ben or Peter want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, let me parse for just another second here.
Okay. In the meantime, the rest of you, not Ben or Peter, look at Neil's question about what is your favorite platform feature or API. I'll give you some airtime.
Okay, so C++ interop with C# is constrained to the Windows runtime type system. It does support structs, it supports arrays of structs, so there are ways to pass more complex data between the two type systems, and depending on what you put in those types, they may be fairly fast and low overhead. If you're using low-level .NET interop with pinvoke and inputter and doing direct data manipulation, there's probably ways that you can pass complex data structures or complex buffers faster than marshalling it into a WinRT buffer. But a well-designed WinRT buffer should have comparable performance, or a well-designed set of WinRT structures may have comparable performance.
Great, thank you, Ben. Who would like to mention about what their favorite platform feature or API is? Gave you a warning or heads up. Robert? Gotta throw you up first.
Sure. I was just answering to on another topic here, but my favorite, and this is because just where my heart is of course the introduction of App Window, which is the lightweight windowing construct for UWP. I believe that kind of moved us forward quite a bit in the UWP windowing space. And I'm hoping to be able to, over the next couple of releases, bring a lot of new goodness there. And that is also where I was about to answer, which is the other part of my passion here, is whether we are bringing these 2D app window constructs to the HoloLens side of mixed reality and the MR headsets. And yes, we are actively working on getting these so that you can programmatically place 2D content in 3D space. All, of course, with my favorite API, App Window. I can't really talk to the timing of when this will be available, but we are actively working on it.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to give it a shot? raise your hand? Ben, you're raising your hand. Okay,
Yeah,
give you a shot there.
I'll take a chance. I'll take the opportunity to plug a little something that's near and dear to my heart, which would be Windows Device Portal. A lot of the folks that are developing for HoloLens or Xbox use Windows Device Portal every day. It's an on-device web server that you can find in the device in the developer settings, and it gives you access to a lot of features and development tools that aren't available anywhere else. You can see crash dumps off the machine. You can do streaming install debugging via Device Portal. You can also manage start-stop and check your apps that way. It has great telemetry and performance data that you can pull off of it. It has REST APIs, so you can programmatically write against it. And it also has an extensibility model that you can add to the set of data available through Device Portal in your application. So if you're trying to build test automation, you can use Windows Device Portal as a way to get both system and application data out of an automation test bench.
Great, thank you. Mike or Peter, do you have anything you want to add? No?
I do
Okay,
not have so many to choose from. I really don't have a favorite personally.
All right. All right, we'll move on to a few more questions here. We're kind of coming down to the last 5 to 7 minutes. From Lorenzo, we had the need to develop a custom shell for Windows to use kiosk in kiosk computers. Are there any resources to get started in shell development, like how to query open windows, host status, tray icons, etc.? I don't know, Robert or Peter, one of you are smiling? No?
I'm kind of smiling because I've got this questions before and I haven't been able to come up with a good answer. This is not something that is well documented, and since there are multiple app types and windowing types, it's hard to do this, and we don't really publish a here's how you write your own shell. Let's just say that if I could select a second topic, that would be my favorite. This would be the second one. I would love for us to provide way more extension points and customization points so that you could easier do this kind of experiences. And I believe that that is a little bit of what we also were thinking when we redesigned for Windows 10X. So that is something that should be easier in that world. I don't have any resources I can kind of give you right now, but I can kind of go and scrounge up the stuff that I've been collecting over the years while kind of looking at this space. But again, nothing kind of here's the blessed way of going and doing this.
Okay, yeah, we don't have a lot of prescriptive guidance on customizing the shell for kiosk mode, right? Let's see here. Ben, I think the next question is yours. Can we measure marshalling from C# to C++ on our own?
So I guess the best advice I could give you would be to use, there's two tools that I like for this type of a scenario. You can either write your own micro benchmarks tightly built around your own scenario, or you can also use the profiling tools in Visual Studio, like the F1 profiler, which is a sampling profiler and would give you an idea of how much time your application's spending in the marshalling layers. I don't know that there's any good automated way to collate the data for what code is actually in the marshallers. You'll have to actually hand probe the data a little bit, but it should be apparent. The term marshalling here is also a little bit overloaded or ambiguous. So the call thunk from C# to C++, a lot of times when we say marshalling, we're thinking about COM marshalling, which means cross-thread, pack up all the parameters, stick them in a buffer, unpack them someplace else, set them back up on the stack, and then use those parameters. And in the interop between C# and C++, most of the time what's happening is on the C# side, it's effectively p invoking a WinRT API. And so there may be a small thunk function generated and written in C# that will massage the data from the WinRT ABI format into a .NET format. But if .NET can represent that data directly, there may actually be no overhead except for the setup of a C# exception handler to handle error cases.
All right, next question we have is from Anonymous. Is there a way to interface with Windows Hello to do biometrics auth and WinForms? I believe that's the user consent verifier API. Peter, do you know more about that? I thought there was that pops up the PIN code.
Yeah, I just linked the user consent verifier would be the API I'd start with. I just sent a link to it in the chat. But
to call from WinForms, we'll need it to pass in an interop interface. And I believe there is an user consent verifier interop interface. So I'm doing a quick search.
Yeah, Claire, did you, I think at one point you were looking into all the things that needed interop interfaces. Did Hello ever get done, do you know?
This is Adam jumping on here again. There is an API in user consent verifier interop.h. And I think that's how you can get the a parented HWind. I think if you call the user consent verifier API directly, it'll be unparented, and so it shows up like maybe stuck in the corner. But if you want it parented to your Windows form, you'll have to do an interop, pinvoke to call it interop API. I think some of those interop APIs that pop dialogues are not well documented, and so you kind of got to look through the header files to look for them. Let's see here. Thank you, Alexander. Glad we could help out. Peter, you have one last question around using custom C++ WinRT components and non-packaged desktop.NET Core apps require manifests. Since WinMD files store all the info about runtime classes which .NET can read, could this manifest requirement be lifted? Ben, you added a comment about that. Do you want to expand on that comment?
I could speak to it just a little. We're almost out of time, so I don't want to burn too much. But yes, the WinRT metadata only provides information about how to use the API. It doesn't tell you where it's implemented, and that's an intentional abstraction. We want to be able to move an implementation around and still ensure that the client code is compatible. Now, for some applications, when you're shipping your own component, that may not be as big a deal, but from a system design perspective, or if we're talking about framework packages, that's a very important abstraction layer. So at least for the time being, there's no plans to merge up that data. The description about where to find an implementation and the description about where to use an API, that's an important distinction, and we want to keep that information separate.
All right, thank you. Since we're about out of time, I'm putting up a couple of links in the chat window for Project Reunion. Also, some other things that are related to WinUI. For WinUI, I do recommend that you actually go to the WinUI repository. Let me share the. Come on. All right, it didn't let me share my slide, so I will put some more stuff in the chat window here, but I had a few additional links for the WinUI repository, as well as some additional links for some features that maybe didn't get as highlighted as much in some of the big talks today. Probably should have gave Mike a moment to talk about the SDK and all the packages that we've built to help improve CI/CD scenarios, and also the .NET projection we built for, .NET projection we built for C# applications.
I can give a quick one-liner. I know we're out of time, but basically the SDK installer is an MSI right now, which has a lot of problems with it, and we're trying to migrate to more granular NuGet packages to make it easy to acquire the pieces you need and to make it easier to integrate into CI/CD. And WinUI will be one of the first consumers of those packages, and Visual Studio, we're working on onboarding the MSIX packaging project to use a new build tools package that would get the 9.5 gigabytes of dependencies it requires down by several gigabytes. That's the short gist of what we're doing.
All right, thank you, Mike. And we did set up a short-term email alias that'll be available for the next couple of weeks for you to contact us directly about this session. Put it in the Q&A link, so please feel free to reach out to us. Also, many of us are on Twitter, and of course, we have our various GitHub repositories with C# WinRT, Rust WinRT, CPP WinRT. We also have the Project Reunion repository and the WinUI repository. So we'd love to get great feedback from you guys on what we're building. With that, thank you, and thank you for your late night. At least for us, it's late night. Hopefully for some of you, it's either early morning or just the middle of your day. Goodbye and thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Ben and Claire in the background for keeping the questions coming.
Yep, truly appreciate that, guys.
Thanks for joining. Take care, everybody.
And Mike as well, Mike. I see you responded to.